Vladimir just got introduced and he is one of the most disgusting champion releases ever, providing so much damage. He has so much damage, so much sustain, and he is a must ban. And if you guys want to know the best champions, then definitely stay tuned. Hey, what's up guys, Darkbreaker here. In today's video, super excited for the new tier list. Patch 4.3b just came out. We have a bunch of changes. Only boss, by the way. Only boss. What is your opinion about all the changes they did? Only boss, only boss, only boss. But anyways, I hope you guys will enjoy this video. I'm gonna provide you guys with my personal opinion about how the meta is right now for the Baron lane, for the jungle, for the mid lane, for the ADC position, and for the support position. And you guys can write down below in the comments, how is your experience in season 10 right now? I know my matchmaking video went pretty popular, so I want to hear your guys' opinion as well. For me right now, I remember when I made the video I had like 2 marks. I'm 40 marks right now. Yes, challenger, on my way to challenger, guys. But yeah, as I said, this is my personal opinion. I'm just providing you an orientation about what I think is strong in this meta and how the meta changed. And yeah, a lot of changes, and it's gonna be a very long video, so grab your drink of choice, grab some food. I have a lovely lemonade, by the way, don't be jealous. Too good, refreshing, easy, take the L. Okay, anyways, yeah, let's get started, I guess. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys are enjoying this. We have a lot of videos coming up for like Misfortune, for the boss, for Jarvan and Jace, etc. So let's get started with the Baron lane tier list. So, oh, let me lower the music maybe a little bit. Might be a bit loud, like this. So, pick of the patch in the Baron lane, it's gonna be Vladimir and Ornn. Vladimir has one of the highest win rates according to the Chinese website, especially in higher ranks. I mean, I knew it, I called it, by the way. I tested in test server and I predicted, and I was correct. The champion in the early game, extremely safe, hard to punish, and late game scaling wise, he has too much sustain and too much damage. The moment he has 3 items, even if you have anti-heal, it doesn't matter because he does way too much damage, he has way too much sustain. That's about it. 3 plus items, he's like Kassadin on steroids. Kassadin has the one-shot mobility, Vladimir has like 1000 heal per first ability, and the enhanced first ability does so much damage. The enhanced first ability with the ultimate on top almost one-shots you when you're a squishy target. That's insane. Then we have Ornn. Even though Ornn got nerfed, he's still one of the strongest Baron laners. Utility wise, he has so much crowd control, he's extremely tanky, and he scales super well, and it also transitions to the win rate he has on the Chinese API website, especially like in higher ranks. Like, you can divide it by like challenger, like you can see like, I'm pretty sure they released like a graph where you can see like, okay, this is like only challenger elo, and in only challenger or only high elo, Vladimir and Ornn still have very high win rates. Now for S+, I've moved a bit down, where I'm like, okay, S+ are only the champions that are super strong, by the way. It's not in an order, for you guys wondering. And I just want to mention that the tier list doesn't necessarily determine how strong a champion can be when you have mastered the champion. To be fair, if you have mastered Vladimir, a master Vladimir obviously can perform better than a K, for example. But still, the fact stands, you can still carry as a K one-trick pony in the Baron lane, for example, and get into high elo. But I mean, if you saw the matchmaking video, you can just... Wait, I can show you a clip, by the way. I can show you a clip of someone. He goes 0-9 every game, and he still has 60% win rate. It's insane. It is insane. Yeah, the matchmaking is very funny. I mean, it doesn't matter what champion you're playing. You can run it down, you're still gonna get master somehow by spamming the game. So, champion doesn't mean that much as you guys think. The player and the matchmake. I mean, the player, like, if you're half stuck in lower ranks, it's the player difference, obviously. Because at the end of the day, if you're a good player, you will get out of like Emerald or Platinum. Just improve and try to get better. Anyways, Aatrox. Aatrox, high sustain, a really good damage, and he got buffed as well. Then we have Akali. Akali's buff is insane, by the way. Akali has been one of the best assassins even before this buff. And now with the buff, her laning phase, her kiting is going to be so much better. First ability consumes less energy in the early game. And then on top of that, the passive grants you 30% additional movement speed in the late game. Allowing you to collect the passive easier and allowing you to chase opponents easier. Making a combo super smooth and super quick. Akali also shits on Hullbreaker champions because Hullbreaker doesn't provide as much resistance anymore for magic damage, so Akali very good in the 1vs1, excellent in teamfights as well, super strong assassin overall. Garen, a still super strong tank with a lot of damage and great split pusher as well if you guys need to. Gwen is kinda, I'm not sure why, but Gwen is kinda underrated, that she isn't played as much, but she is still very strong. I think the main reason is because Gwen is hard to play, because she needs to focus on farming in the early game, and her early game is not the strongest, but her late game is insane. Like, she just runs through everyone, she can block projectiles with her second ability, or she can get targeted. Then on top of that, her ultimate does so much damage and true damage. She's very good against tanks as well. Then we have Camille. Camille is a super consistent split push, high mobility split push, teamfight champion, duelist. Like in the 1vs1 she's super good, and then in teamfight she's good, thanks to her ultimate to catch the enemy ADC for example, or the hyper carry, and then also high mobility with the third ability. But yeah, Camille's super solid overall. Gragas also very solid champion still. Whether you're running him tank Gragas, where he provides tons of crowd control with a dash and with the ultimate to catch people, or you're just running AP build, where you're just poking people down and you're one-shotting them. Gragas super consistent and easy to play. Then we have Jax. Jax is one of the strongest split pushers and scales into the late game insanely well. If you guys want to split push, Jax is probably the easiest champion to split push, and one team fight you're ignored and your opponents, or I mean your allies, are not losing the team fight completely. You're just taking 2 turrets immediately, or you might even take the Nexus immediately. So Jax is very easy to backdoor the Nexus. Like if one Baron laner is not defending you and he's like joining the team fight, just one good team fight, you can end the game. Just one team fight where distracted, they're not paying attention, and I'm telling you, people tend to not defend the lanes, so Jax can just push, split push, split push, split push, get all the turrets, get the tier 3, and consistently creating pressure. And once you open the tier 3 turret, there's always like the backdoor factor. Okay, they're trying to fight for the Elder, they're trying to fight for the Baron. Jax is ignored. Boom, Nexus is gone. And I'm telling you, this will happen so much. It will happen so much because people don't have macro understanding. But at the same time, split push is also hard to execute if they're always clowning around the objectives and you're not there, and they can play it slowly and they just end up dying. Okay, wait. Next one is gonna be Fiora. Fiora got buffed that her first ability is hitting the turrets right now. I think she's a great duelist. In the right hands she can be super snowbally, but I think the problem is she's very hard to play. Like, the margin of mistakes on her are so small. You're not allowed to make any mistakes, otherwise you're not gonna win the 1vs1 against a lot of matchups. And then on top of that, her team fighting is so hard to execute. I think Fiora always has to focus on being on the side lane to split push, while Jax is actually not bad in team fights thanks to his ultimate and thanks to his third ability. So that's the difference. And Jax is also he pushes quicker. He just pushes quicker and he's way easier to play than Fiora. Fiora is way harder to play than Jax. Then we have Riven. Riven got buffed, so she is way better in the lane as well, but she's kind of struggling against a lot of matchups and high skill ceiling against those matchups. I think first ability, more damage. Third ability, less cooldown. What did I miss? Oops, otherwise on Riven. Yeah, I was right. Okay. I mean, it's definitely gonna help her in the 1v1 out. But yeah, the problem still stands that she's very snowball reliant. I mean, she's still a high mobility burst assassin, can be pretty good in team fights, but there are some team compositions where she's hard to play. And then 1v1 is kind of tricky, obviously, like, you need to know the matchups, and it's not like you have like, wow, super easy stomp lane matchups. A lot of matchups are hard. Now Jace got buffed, base attack damage got increased, then also, whenever he transforms into hammer form, he gets more armor now because it's scaling with bonus attack damage. So the more attack damage you have, the more armor you're getting. So this is gonna help him definitely out into those physical damage matchups against like Fiora, Riven, Camille, Darius, etc. And obviously Jace is one of the most dominant lane bullies in the game, super strong, can be good as a split pusher and has obviously really good poking potential as well. Then we have Swain. Swain is a solid Baron laner. I'm just thinking if I'm just putting him too high here. Okay, the thing is I can move. No, that's the problem, I can move them. Swain could be A tier, no, not gonna lie. But Swain skates like a truck, like super good crowd control, really tanky and good damage as well. Then we have Shen obviously for the utility with the ultimate, global ultimate to join team fights, holds his lane decently and has taunt as well to catch people. Darius, Juggernaut, oh I forgot Set. Set is not here, I just realized. But Set is also S tier. Darius and Set, can I adjust it here? Oh I can. Oh, I can adjust it, wait. Sets. Yeah, set is also S tier. Did forget something. Not sure. AOS. Yone could also be S, not gonna lie. It's hard to say. I mean, if I put Swain S, I should put Yone S as well. Well, where was it? Darius. Darius is a really good Juggernaut, has good damage, has good sustain, has good teamfight reset potential to just wipe the opponents with the Noxus Might and the ultimate, but works the best against melee champions, so he's a bit situational when you are gonna pick him. Then we have Set. Set is a champion that is insane in teamfights, is super tanky, does a lot of damage. Yone, one of the best scaling champions in the game. I think 1v1 he's not that bad actually in the lane. He can farm pretty safely, right? And then late game he skates like a truck, super strong. Renekton, overall super versatile, consistent Baron laner, as strong as a duelist, has good sustain, has the stun lock, has mobility, is tanky in teamfights. Mundo, overall solid, super tanky in teamfights, and in the 1v1 he's surprisingly pretty strong, like kinda underrated. Malphite, tanky champion, great ultimate in teamfights, kinda struggles against split pushing Hullbreaker champions obviously, because he can't keep them at bay, or he can't hold the lane. Sion, tanky, very tanky, good crowd control, good split pusher, overall very solid. Zed, high skill ceiling, 1v1 duelist assassin that can split push. Obviously, I guess very high skill ceiling to make him work in the Baron lane. Like you need to be like a one-trick pony Zed to play him in the Baron lane, because there are obviously a lot of Baron laners that are just gonna start stacking armor against him. Diana, insane in teamfights, overall does have a lot of hard matchups in the Baron lane, so you just have to focus on farming and then join teamfights. Cannon, a lane dominant champion in the early game, great in teamfights as well, but kind of falls off in the side lane. Akshan, also a strong lane bully, he also got buffed, making him even stronger, but he is kind of a situational counter pick into some melee matchups. Akshan, for example, super good into like Fiora, for example. I forgot someone, I forgot Wukong. I just remembered the Wukong. Yeah, Wukong has tier. Wukong, decent or strong duelist with a sustain and insane ultimate in team fights. Aurelia also got buffed, but it's just a slight buff on the second ability, doesn't really affect her too much. Aurelia has a lot of hard matchups in the Baron lane, high skill ceiling. You need to have mastered this champion. I wouldn't recommend playing Aurelia in the Baron lane necessarily, because there's so many hard matchups for her to play, and you really need to have mastered this champion. But obviously, if she's snowballing, she can be very good in team fights. Teemo is a strong lane bully that kind of falls off in the mid game, but in the late game, when you have like tons of rooms set up and you have a lot of ability haste, then Teemo can be a nightmare on the map with the control he has around the objectives. Like Liandry, Shrooms doing so much damage. Pantheon is kind of hit and miss. I think he can be good into some matchups, 1v1 to win in the early game. Then he has the ultimate to rotate and roam around and snowball. Obviously he's falling off in the mid and late game. But yeah, he has a lot of bad matchups as well, when people are just stacking armor against him, and then when he's not winning in the early game, he's just gonna end up losing, and then he can't do anything anymore, so problem stands. Volibear, I think, is also a decent bruiser, but he has a lot of bad matchups and he can be punished very easily. But I mean, he is still a good frontliner with crowd control, but yeah, a lot of hard matchups. Vayne is a situational ADC that can be good. Actually, Vayne has one of the highest win rates on the Chinese website, Diamond Plus, I think. I think the problem is like the reason she has so high win rate is because she's late game really good and people don't know how to lane against ADCs, but Vayne is so easy to punish as a jungler, and she has a lot of bad matchups as well where she's getting outscared and she can't hold anymore later on. So situational counter pick into some elite champions. Jarvan got buffed, making him more tanky, with the second ability getting adjusted and the ultimate getting adjusted. Second ability grants you more shielding for the amount of HP you have, and ultimate gives you damage reduction. So laning phase he holds pretty decently in teamfight. Obviously he's pretty good with his engaging and his crowd control. Then we have Urgot. Urgot, in my opinion, is a decent laner. In the early game, he's pretty strong, falls off a little bit in the mid game. When he has his passive maxed out, he is gonna be really strong again. Has good teamfight power thanks to his flip and thanks to the ultimate. Overall, he does struggle into some matchups though. Kassadin kinda slow paced, needs to focus on farming, but obviously in the late game, he is super strong thanks to his mobility and thanks to his one-shot potential. Now we have Singed. Singed is very weak in the early game, I would say, unless you're cheesing level 2, but I mean, if you're not stupid, you're not gonna die to Singed level 2, so play it safe, don't get cheesed. Singed, very good in teamfight though, later on, with the flip, with the second ability. He's pretty tanky, he has a lot of damage as well, thanks to the Liandry, and then so much crowd control and playmaking potential on the Singed. But obviously in the early game, he is pretty damn weak against a lot of matchups. Yasuo, very situational and has a lot of counter matchups as well, when they're just stacking too much armor, or like for example Renekton, just with a second ability, just absolutely demolishes Yasuo. So he has a lot of hard matchups and high skill ceiling, plus you need the right team comp. Lucian, a situational counter pick as well, similar to Vayne. High mobility, really strong in the early game, but also super squishy and easy to punish in the Baron lane. I have seen some Lilia top lanes, and I think she's honestly okay-ish to play in the Baron lane. I mean, if you guys need some more AP damage, she is kind of slow-paced in the early game, and I think she has a lot of hard matchups as well, where she's just getting zoned or she's just losing the 1v1. So, I mean, when you have 3 items, obviously her team fighting can be good, but before that, I would say she's pretty weak. Olaf is a coin flip. Olaf is literally a coin flip. I have not seen a good Olaf Baron lane so far, and I mean, yeah, he is playable in the Baron lane, but most people don't know how to play him, and he is also very cheesy. Like, you need to cheese and snowball and get a pick and try to get first blood, and if you don't, you're just falling off. And obviously situational against melee champions and not against high mobility champions. Warwick I've seen some Warwick AP or like Bruiser Warwicks in the Baron lane. I think he just struggles against a lot of matchups, and he's extremely cheesy, I guess. I mean, not sure. I don't like Warwick Baron lane. I think he has a lot of hard matchups to play. Graves is pretty scaling, needs like 3+ items, 4 items I would say, before he comes online, so very slow pace, but he can be a good split pusher and strong in the 1v1 obviously. Then Nasus also super slow paced, very weak in the early game, easy to punish in the early game. He needs a lot of time to scale, and a lot of times you don't have enough time to scale. That's a problem. Kale is super vulnerable in the early, mid, and honestly until she's level 15. Super squishy, easy to punish, needs a lot of time to scale, and needs a lot of items. But yeah, that's going for the Baron lane. Let's hop right into the jungle part. Okay, for jungle, pick of the patch is gonna be Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix is the champion I've been playing the most in the season. I never used to be a Kha'Zix main. I played him occasionally, sometimes for video, but now I have become a Kha'Zix main, and Kha'Zix is so strong as an assassin, and objective control from him is absolutely insane. I think most high elo junglers are playing Kha'Zix as well, and the highest ranked junglers are usually Kha'Zix mains as well, even in previous seasons. This guy has really good burst damage, like his reset potential to just wipe the enemies is good. He has good poking with the second evolve. He has insane jungle objective control, like big objectives, Baron, Elder, Dragons, thanks to his first ability doing so much burst damage, so he's rarely getting outsmited. Yeah, Kha'Zix is just super strong in my opinion right now. I mean, you have burst damage, you have high mobility, you have stealth on top of that. You can invade the opponent all the time, just winning 1v1s as well. You can ambush and brushes, catching people off guard, and I think he's just more consistent than Blue Kayn. I know Blue Kayn can be super broken as well, but I think Kha'Zix is just way more consistent to play and easier to play than... To be honest, Kayn is easier to play when he gets the blue form, but you can pick Kha'Zix almost every time, even if the opponent has tanks. While Red Kayn is okay-ish if they're tanky, but he shines the most as Blue Kayn, obviously. So he's more team comp reliant or enemy team comp reliant than the Kha'Zix pick. Obviously, Blue Kayn, when you have the blue form, you're stacking up, you have 3 items, you're just starting to one-shot everyone, you have so much mobility, it's so easy to just keep poking them and just assassinate them. But the problem is like the consistency of getting the blue form. A lot of times, you will have a problem getting the blue form early. If your allies or if your bot lane is bad, you will have such a big problem stacking up the blue form. Or if they only have like 2 or 3 or like only 2 champions that are ranged, then it's also hard for Blue Kayn to work. So Blue Kayn works the best when they have like 4 squishy champions where you can stack up the blue stack super quickly, and then also have a good bot lane. Like if your bot lane is bad, it's hard to gank them and it's hard to get the blue form. I have so many games where I'm like, okay, one game I have blue form in 4 minutes, I'm demolishing everyone, I'm one-shotting everyone, and then the other game, I have such a big problem to get the blue form in like 8, 9, or even 10 minutes. So that's what I mean with consistency-wise. He's very reliant on getting the blue form, and if he doesn't get the blue form, he is pretty damn weak beforehand. But obviously, once he has it, he is just scaling so hard into the late game, one-shotting everyone. So Blue Kayn obviously super strong pick as well. Twitch surprisingly has become one of the nightmares in solo queue. He's one of the junglers I always ban, because everyone is inting to his stealth. Like, people don't know how to play against Twitch, and Twitch is just snowballing every game, just ganking left and right, just getting free kills thanks to his stealth and thanks to his cheese. And then on top of that, he has so much damage in the late game. Late game wise in team fights, he does the most damage out of like Kha'Zix, Kayn, Evelynn, Diana, etc. He does the most. Twitch does the most. If you have like a nice angle where you're hitting everyone with the ultimate, you're just nuking the whole team. So Twitch Teamfight wise, or yeah, Twitch teamfight wise is the strongest jungler late game for sure. He's insane. He's disgusting. Like, if Twitch gets into late game and he has some peel, he will always carry the team fight. Then we have Evelynn. Evelynn, stealth, snowboarding the map. One of the strongest assassins in the game, snowballing and just one-shotting everyone. Then we have Diana, high mobility burst damage. Diana also one of my main champions. She is just super good in team fights, and also in the 1v1 she's great. High mobility as well to reach those high mobile ADCs that are hard to kill. Then we have Aatrox. If you guys like bruisers, Aatrox is still one of the best junglers as well. Super tanky, tons of sustain, and tons of damage on top of that. Then we have Yone. Yone is in fact one of the strongest late game champions in the game. He has so much playmaking potential, and he is just super good in teamfights as well. His ganks are also... He is really good at gank angles thanks to his third ability, the first ability, knock up, and the ultimate. Like, you just can flank around, you can dive super easily and escape as well. Obviously in the early game he's kind of slow paced, but in the mid and late game when he has items he is so strong. For example, Riders is top 1 Yone, and he's almost challenger as well using this champion, so Yone is really strong in solo queue. Then we have Gragas. Gragas is still one of the best junglers in my opinion. I think, did I forget Lilia? No, I didn't. Gragas still one of the best. Great poking damage, great playmaking potential, just one-shots everyone, and is super good in teamfights as well. Then we have Jarvan. Jarvan got buffed, but yeah, Jarvan is not gonna be S+. I mean, he's gonna be like, I think you can run him lethality, just one-shotting everyone, or you're running the tank build, where you're just providing so much core control, you're an amazing initiator, and you're jungling or you're ganking in the early game. You have really high tempo in the early game to just keep spam ganking left and right. So Jarvan has that advantage. Obviously, he's going to be way more tanky on top of that in teamfights as well. So great, engaging, tanky, teamfight-based champion. Now we have Riven. Riven jungle clear got slightly nerfed, I would say, because they nerfed the passive damage onto monsters by 50%. But they're compensating by buffing the first ability and third ability. So I think that's it evens out. In teamfight, Riven is going to be stronger. For jungle clear, she's going to be a bit slower, but high mobility burst assassin still very good. Jace, jungle clear got nerfed, second ability and third ability got nerfed, jungle clear damage wise, but base attack damage getting increased, plus ultimate, or should I say the transformation, giving him more armor, making him also very strong. I tried both builds out, Bruiser Jace and full lethality Jace with first strike. I think first strike full lethality is still the best, doing tons of burst damage. Yeah, he just does so much damage in the early game, and then he has insane poking damage in teamfights as well. Pantheon with first strike actually is super strong in my opinion. He just snowballs on the map super quickly since he has high tempo on the map. Plus he has the ultimate to gank, and then with the first strike he skates quicker into the late game. Even though he kind of falls off later on, he can control and snowball the map very quickly. Very similar to a Lee Sin, high tempo jungler that just spam ganks everywhere. Oh, I can move. Now Volibear. Volibear is a super tanky jungler that does a lot of damage, has a lot of sustain, and is very good at diving. Then we have Shyvana. Shyvana is also one of my favorite junglers right now. Super good for the 1vs9, just power farming and then running everyone down. Vi, high tempo, super good jungle clear speed, and then she's tanky, she has a lot of damage, good ganking as well. Similar to Xin, actually same explanation. Xin is a bruiser, does a lot of damage, is tanky, good gankings as well. Olaf is a little bit more situational. It's really good into melee matchups or into tanky champions, counters, high crowd control team compositions, but here's the problem that he's getting kited against the matchups. I mean, he has true damage, he can ignore crowd control with the ultimate, so that makes him pretty strong. Wukong, I think Wukong just doesn't have the insane 1vs9 hyper carry that I expect from like the others are just stronger or better, I would say. Because Wukong is more team reliant, because he's a team based champion that is tanky, but not like 1vs9, I'm just one-shotting doing tons of damage. He's more teamfight utility based. Obviously, he's still doing decent amount of damage. His ultimate is insane and he has a lot of sustain, but I think he's just not as broken as the others. Then we have Shen. I think Shen in solo queue can be pretty damn good, because he's super good at like counter ganking. Like no matter what, the ultimate is an immediate counter gank. No matter what, you can just focus on farming, you can gank on one lane, and then use the ultimate, you can gank on the other side of the map as well to counter gank. So Shen can be very, very good if your teammates are humans, but at the end of the day, he's kind of reliant on having good teammates. But I mean, it kind of counts for all more tanky-based champions. His jungle is honestly not that bad though, as well. Then we have Amumu. Amumu has good jungle clear speed. He's kind of vulnerable in the early game against high tempo junglers that can punish him. He's good in teamfights though, but obviously he's not the hyper carry. He's not the hyper carry. Rammus kind of... I mean, Rammus is still good. He kind of got nerfed in the last patch, but he is still good. Great against melee champions or great against AD based champions, since he can just counter them, stacking armor. And obviously his ganking is pretty good. High tempo in the early game. Great utility in teamfight and great frontliner. Dr. Mundo, also great frontliner with a decent amount of damage. Pretty strong in my opinion. Then we have Fiora, great duelist, but very hard to execute in team fights. Plus, you need to snowball in the early game. Then we have Gwen. Gwen, in my opinion, is kind of slow-paced in the early game, but obviously in the late game, she scales like a truck, does tons of damage. Similar to Camille, also slow-paced in the early game, can scale pretty well. High mobility ultimate is a free ganking tool. That's about it. Let's move on to Zed. Zed, high skill ceiling, can be good assassin, really good gank angles, thanks to the second and ultimate to just dive the opponents, and then he snowballs pretty quickly and can just one-shot people. Akshan actually B. Akshan is kind of cheesy pick, where you're just trying to snowball and trying to pick off people thanks to your stealth and using the third ability, jumping on them, doing tons of damage. And obviously, to be fair, Akshan in the late game does so much damage. Irelia, hey, I talked about her beforehand. Wait, do I have a mid lane? I think I might have forgotten her mid lane. No, I don't. Okay, Irelia, good damage, snowball reliant, high skill ceiling. Darius, very team comp reliant. He can be pretty good though, honestly. Honestly, I should put him S tier. Honestly, I should put Darius S tier. Darius is pretty good in solo queue. Every time I play him, I'm winning. Like, his snowboarding is super good. Trinity, Collector, Darius, just one-shotting everyone, literally. Pretty damn strong. Jungle here is really good. Ganking with a third ability, not bad. And then ultimate teamfight, super good as well. Let's move on to Urgot. Urgot in the early game, pretty good jungle clear speed, really good ganks, he's tanky, has good damage in the early mid game, and then later on he's a decent team fighter. Renekton, decent jungle clear speed, good ganks, third ability into stun, and then he has the ultimate, making him more tanky, so he's good in team fights as well. Rengar, very snowball reliant and kind of coin flip. Either you're popping off, you're super strong, or you're just taking the L and you are super useless. Fizz is actually S tier. I should move Fizz S tier. Fizz in the early game, a little bit slow paced, but 3 items Fizz onward is just starting to one-shot everyone. Fizz, one of the strongest assassins actually. Then we have Nilah. Nilah still kind of popular somehow, even though she got nerfed. Her jungle kill speed is not that good, but her team fighting and her entire sustain and her mobility are good in team fights. Like Nilah, I mean, she's an ADC, so she has like ADC damage. So she has the ADC team fight power to just wipe everyone doing tons of damage. She has a lot of sustain and a lot of shielding on top of that. Grace in the jungle has a better time than in the Baron lane, because he can just focus on farming, get a lot of gold, and then just start one-shotting people with his crit build once he has like 3-4 items. Yasuo, very team comp reliant, but can be devastating once he has 3 items. Lilia, slow-paced in the early game, just focus on farming, but she can be very good in teamfights. Kayle jungle is probably her best position. Just focus on farming, try to scale, and then late game you're just carrying everyone and just one-shotting. Okay, you're not one-shotting, but you're just swing, pop, 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 that, pop, 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 that. Nautilus consistent. I mean, whether you're running him AP or full tank, still fine. Good crowd control, good damage, and can be very tanky as well. Master Yi, kinda coin flip, either you're snowballing out of control or you're just an inter and you can't do anything. Plus, there are so many team comps where Master Yi is getting countered if they're too tanky or if they have too much crowd control. Echo, very similar to Lilia and Gwen, just super scaling. I'm just thinking if I should put Echo. I think Fizz is just easier to play than Echo. Echo is harder to play. I would say Echo, obviously 3+ items, very good in teamfights, just one-shotting people, but he is not as easy to play. Like, second ability management is not that easy. Pyke jungle here got gutted actually, and the Pyke got nerfed. His jungle here is way worse now, but he's still very similar to Lee Sin, high tempo, just spam ganking and snowballing the map. So I think the Pyke one-trick ponies can still make him work, but he's obviously not as good anymore. I think last time I had him S tier, so he's from S tier to A tier. Sinch, a very cheesy champion. Scaled like a truck, very good in teamfights though. Warwick, also very cheesy champion. Needs to get some pickups with the ultimate, so his ganking is good, but his jungle is also fine, but his teamfighting is dog shit. Tryndamere, very slow paced, and his teamfighting is also not that good, so just B tier. Jax, also very slow paced in the jungle. The thing is, you can't get passive stacks on monster camps, that's the reason he's just B tier. Because he's very slow jungle clear, and he needs a lot of items to work. But yeah, let's move on to mid lane. Okay, let's move on to mid lane. For the mid lane, we have pick of the patch, Vladimir and Akali. Vladimir, obviously, this champion is absolutely disgusting broken. Too much damage, too much sustain, and I mean, he has also insane high win rate as well. So I know some people don't know how to lane with him, but he's super safe. Like, just focus on last hitting with the first ability, just hack the turret, farm up, get 3 items, carry the game. It's not hard. Akali, I already explained it. Akali is just so strong right now, teamfight wise, and her laning phase is way better as well. If you guys are struggling, you can also just run fleet footwork. And like, you have so much mobility then to just keep poking and hitting the opponents, bursting them. Teamfight, obviously she's just one-shotting everyone. Karma also got buffed. I don't know why. She was always very strong, and finally she's maybe not broken, but she was still very strong, and I don't know why they're buffing her, granting her way more damage right now. I think, what was it again? First ability more damage, and then third ability more shielding, and it gets, yeah, third ability more shielding as well. It just doesn't make sense. Like, AP ratio got buffed, AP ratio getting buffed, base damage on first ability for base and mantra getting buffed. It just doesn't make sense. So the more ability power you have, the more shielding you're gonna do now, because it's scaling 15% more ability power, scaling, and then base also 10 more base. It just doesn't make sense, right? And actually in mantra you're getting 20 more. In mantra you're getting 20 more base shielding plus 15% more ability power scaling. It just doesn't make sense. So you understand, the more ability power you have, the more shielding you will provide to your allies as well. So you have insane amount of poking damage with that Luden Airy, Void Staff, Death Cap, pew 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 pew, first ability mantra into your face, doing tons of damage. You have the ultimate, doing tons of damage, insane teamfight ability. Second ability, AoE root, and third ability, AoE shielding plus movement speed. And then people are telling me Karma is not that strong. You guys have no idea, Karma is broken. Now we have Annie. Annie is disgusting. Annie is so strong right now. Surprisingly, Annie is so strong right now. Everyone is playing Annie. She has insane Burst damage, 1 vs 1, she is just one-shotting people. Teamfight wise, she is just bursting people, and then she has the ultimate, the second part of the ultimate, to finish people off. Plus, yeah, the shield is so good because the shield provides a movement speed right now, making her kiting and her repositioning and roaming much better. It's not even the ultimate that makes Annie so good now, it's the third ability. Because the third ability, granting a movement speed, just fixes a problem about her getting caught easily or her inability to rotate in the early game. This is helping us so much out. Then we have Corki with First Strike, just insane poking monster. So good with the package in teamfights as well. Lux also, teamfight wise, poking, burst, shielding, one shot, you name it. Lux also super strong. Akshan got buffed as well. I can show you guys the changes really quick. Attack per level getting increased, and then ultimate also damage getting increased. Yeah, that's it. He was already one of the strongest lane bullies in the mid lane. You can just snowball and you just rotate into the side lanes with a stealth, with a third ability, and then late game scaling wise, obviously he is crit based. Crit based champions in the late game are just doing tons of damage. Diana, one of the best teamfight high mobility burst assassins. Then we have Kassadin. Kassadin has one of the highest win rates in the mid lane, by the way, in according to the Chinese website for high elo. It's if you guys are wondering, it's LOL Mobile QQ or something. Just look the website up. It's not hard to find. But yeah, Kassadin First Strike skates into the late game, and then high mobility one-shots everyone. Katarina, especially below Master. Below Master, Katarina is a must-ban. Because in lower ranks, there's Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta. I know in high elos also Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta, but sometimes there's like a little bit of coordination. But in lower ranks, Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta, Clown Fiesta, no one focus, Katarina, one reset, boom, pentakill. One reset, pentakill. One reset, pentakill. She's a nightmare in lower ranks. She will always have 20 kills in lower ranks. Yone. Yeah, Yone is broken. Strong in the laning phase. Good 1 vs 1 potential, and then late game, too much damage, too much sustain, too much mobility, too much playmaking. Zed also super strong right now, insane in the 1 vs 1 to snowball, insane in teamfights to just pick off people, and then can split push as a side lane as well. Surprisingly, Twisted Fate First Strike is really good. But I have only seen a handful of Twisted Fate players, but trust me, Twisted Fate is such a underrated champion. He is so underrated, even though he is really good at like controlling the map with the ultimate, snowballing left and right, the gold card flying from 200 miles away catching you with a rapid fire. Twisted Fate is actually really strong, and I should play Twisted Fate for video, not gonna lie. Do you guys want to see a Twisted Fate First Strike video? I might play on Smurf though. Because I don't play this champion too much. But I think I can make him work on Smurf. First Strike Twisted Fate. Oh yes, he is disgusting. His macro control and his pick-up potential is just really good. And do you understand the synergy of third ability? Third ability grants you more gold, right? And then First Strike grants you more gold. So he can get snowball so quickly into 10,000 gold. Zoe! I'm surprised, after the Zoe nerfs, I have not seen a single Zoe anymore. After the Zoe nerfs, where they gutted her early game damage, I have not seen a single Zoe anymore. I have not seen a single good Zoe play anymore. I know before the nerfs, I had 2 games where I just couldn't play the game. She just snowboarding, one-shotting me. Just being super annoying poking wise. But I have not seen any Zoes anymore. And I'm not sure why. I think it's just the early game damage nerf just makes her fall off a little bit, but I think she's obviously still a good poking champion. Ari, high mobility burst assassin, but I feel like the pick rate of her is also falling off. I think the others are just outshining. I think the problem is Lux, Annie are just better. Lux and Annie are just better than Ari. I mean, Ari has the advantage that she has like high mobility, she has the charm. But I think Lux and Annie are just way better in teamfights. because they're just wiping the whole team. Well, Annie is like a champion that's just picking off people one by one, right? Annie just wipes the whole team. Lux wipes the whole team. They're just easier and stronger to play than Ahri. Ahri is harder to play because landing those combos like the ultimate charm combo or portable charm combo quickly, or E-flash like charm flash combo, it's just way harder to play, and that's why she is falling off. It's not as popular because the others are just stronger and easier, like Karma, Corki, Annie, Lux. They're way easier to play. Vladimir, way easier to play. They're all way easier to play and way stronger, so why would you play Ahri over them? Unless you're a simp. If you're a simp, then you can still play for Ahri, obviously. But I mean, you have Lux as well. Lux is also very popular. Anyway, Swain, let's move on. Swain, obviously, still very strong. Good poking damage, good crowd control, tanky as well. Yasuo. Yasuo is a very situational pick. I think some Yasuo players make him look S+, and then there's some Yasuo players that are absolute inter, so he's kind of inconsistent because he's very team comp reliant, and on top of that he is super high skill ceiling, so you actually have to master this champion to make him work. But obviously his team fighting and his damage are nuts in the late game. Vex is an amazing assassin with really good burst damage as well, has good utility with the fear, but I feel like he's very similar to Ahri, that the others are just outshining. I think Vex obviously has the potential to be very, very, very strong, but he's just getting outshined by the others, and I think that's why I'm putting him S tier over. I used to have him S+, but I feel like the others, I have to consider like pick rate and accessibility, like how easy are they to play, how easy are they to make them work, and I think that's the reason I'm never seeing Vex players. Do you see Vex players in your games? I never see Vex players. And Ahri also super rare. What I see the most is Annie is so popular, Lux is giga popular, Kassadin is very popular, Yone, Yasuo, Zed, Katarina in lower ranks especially, Akali sometimes, Vladimir is like super popular right now. I mean, new champion, new broken champion, Riot, congratulations, what a surprise. Now we have poking utility mages. Did I forget Vega? No, I did not. Oriana and Ziggs, good teamfight based poking champions. We have Fizz, great assassin but weak in the early game. We have Gregor, super consistent poking champion with playmaking potential. We have Galio obviously amazing against magic champions thanks to his second ability. He has taunt, he has knock up, he has AoE ultimate joining teamfights. So I love Galio players, by the way. But there are no Galio players, but they're only pussy players. They're only enchanters. I want to play enchanter. I don't want to play giga chat tank. Big buff tanks like me. Boom. I'm kidding. Okay, that was cringe. But yeah, there are only those virgin enchanter players. And where are my the brown players, the mustache players, the chat players? Where are they? And this is very similar to Galio. We need more tank or more chat players in the mid position, because Galio is just so good for teamfight compositions. He's tanky, he has a lot of damage, he has a lot of utility, makes the team comp so much easier to play even if you have no main tank. Galio is an excellent sub tank, a great initiator, etc. Good poking damage, good initiator, underrated, but I mean, obviously he's not the hyper carry 1vs9 champion, because he's still team-based, he needs good allies. Lucian, I was actually thinking about Lucian maybe S+, but I think he has hard matchups. High mobility, burst damage, excellent in the early game, excellent in team fights, struggles against some matchups though, for example assassins, I guess against Akali, Diana, Kassadin potentially late, no, okay, Kassadin not early game, late game, Zed, Yone, Yasuo, Ahri, I think he has like some matchups where he can definitely struggle. Oh, Irelia as well, can also beat him. Irelia is way better in the mid lane, great assassin, good snowballing, good in team fights, but high skill ceiling. Then we have Vega, kind of slow paced in the early game. That's the only problem I have with the Vega is he's team comp reliant, that he needs some frontline, but obviously in team fighting, Vega late game and team fighting is one of the best utility poking mages. I mean, he's not necessarily poking mage, but one of the best utility mages in team fights late game. Problem is his early game, he's pretty weak, needs to scale and needs the right setup, like having some frontliners. Let's say you have like you have Nautilus jungle, plus Rakan, and then you have Veigar. Or you have Alistar, Nautilus, Veigar, and then you have like late game hyper carry. What late game hyper carry? Kai'Sa backline, or Varus backline. Veigar, and then 2 tanks. The game is so piss easy late game. Teamfight so easy. But I mean, there's like a standard tier competitive team comp, to be fair. But yeah, 2 scaling and can roam in the early game. Has a lot of hard matchups in the early game as well. Then we have Jace. Jace very strong in the early game, super good laning phase wise and good poking damage. Riven is strong in the laning phase right now, and I think she is very underrated. She can counter a lot of matchups in the mid lane. Is your Faker, Barcode Killer, who knows? Barcode Killer, 2013, Faker, Riven mids in North America, stomping everyone. That's when I was still watching and playing actively PC as well. Barcode Killer, Riven mid lane, high skill ceiling, but you can make him work against a lot of champions. I mean, he's playable against every champion, not gonna lie. What's the hardest matchup for Riven mid lane? I guess Jace is annoying, Yone, that. Long range poking champions can be annoying, but honestly, if you just play around the shield correctly, you can make her work. I've never put Riven or like other bruiser mid laners. Like I used to put Fiora and Camille also mid lane, but I'm too lazy to always explain because high skill ceiling, you need to be a skilled player. And I know my viewers are not skilled players. No, I didn't say that. My viewers are obviously skilled players because they're watching my guides. Did you guys see my jungle guide, by the way? Watch it. Anyways, I didn't just flame my viewers, I didn't do that. Anyways, let's move on to Pyke mid lane. Kind of falling off because his jungle, his mid wave clear speed is weaker. He can rotate as easily because they nerfed the damage, but he can still be an excellent roamer and playmaker in the right hands. If you're a Pyke one trick pony, it's still playable. Nilah mid lane. I've put Pantheon B, and the main reason is more because I hate Pantheon players, not because he's B tier. Pantheon is probably A tier, but I hate Pantheon players. That's why I'm putting in B tier. Nilah, kinda cheesy mid lane pick, can be good in team fights. Echo, pretty weak in the laning phase, but can be good late game. Morgana, weak in the early game, can be good in team fights though, poking and good utility. Aurelion Sol can be very good in team fights and as a roamer. Gwen, weak in the early game, very scaling, can be very good late game team fights. Brand is an excellent poking champion with the right team setup, but pretty squishy, no mobility, can't really roam. Singed, very cheesy mid lane pick. Yeah, weak in the early game, can be good in skirmishes, great in team fights obviously. Garen is a solid Baron laner. Yeah, Garen is a solid Baron laner that can be used in the mid lane. Good tanky, good against some matchups to counter. Garen into Zed, Garen into Riven, Garen into Jace, Garen into Aurelia, Garen into like maybe Annie or Diana or Kassadin can be pretty good. Use Heartbreaker and then go side lane later on, and you're a good frontline, and that can counter some matchups as well. Cannon is pretty weak in the early game against a lot of matchups, but obviously his ultimate is good. I have seen a lot of AP Kaisers mid lane, and they're kind of hit and miss, but it's playable. It seems to be pretty playable. Just try to farm up safely, and late game the main reason why it's good is because Kai'Sa's broken. Because Kai'Sa's broken, she's viable mid lane. Not because ADC are necessarily good in mid lane. It's because Kai'Sa's just a broken champion with the AP build right now in teamfights late game. Farm safely and you become late game gods. Very similar to Echo, I guess, and Gwen. And I think her laning phase, 1v1 wise, is easier than Echo or Gwen. But she has some hard matchups. Zed, Yone, Akshan, Aurelia. Those assassins that can just one-shot her, where she has to play very careful. Pantheon, great against a lot of squishy champions to snowball. he falls off in the mid and late game, and a lot of Pantheon players are just dog shit, and they can't win early games, so I just put him B tier. It's not because Pantheon is bad, it's because Pantheon players are bad. It's not the champion, it's you Pantheon mains that are dog shit. That's why I'm putting B tier. Kayle, more accessible in the mid lane than in the Baron lane, because she's not as easy to punish, and she can farm easier in the mid lane than in the Baron lane, because in the Baron lane it's way easier to dive. Lilia also very scaling, weak in the early game, but teamfight can be good. Seraphine, weak in the early game, I would say against a lot of matchups, very easy to punish level 5, no roaming ability, can be good in teamfights with a nasty ultimate though. Dude, I have seen APC Seraphine the other day, and it was the first time I was impressed by a Seraphine player. It was Seraphine plus Nautilus bot lane. I was like, wow, damn, they are good. It's the first time I was like, that's a good Seraphine, nice ultimates. Because usually Seraphine players are all dog shit. Like, not gonna lie, I'm sorry Seraphine mains, but most of you Seraphine mains are very bad at playing a champion. And this champion is not hard to play. Press the ultimate. Press one good ultimate. You let them chase, like a Nami ultimate. You let them chase, use the ultimate, boom. You win the team fight. Like, if they're chasing you within the jungle, you use one team fight where they're all lined up, boom, you win the team fight. One good Seraphine ultimate is a game changer. Let's move on to ADC. I'm happy about ADCs, because ADCs, like, look at the comparison, how many champions are in jungle. Look, how many champions are in jungle, and then ADC. Short part, let's go. Pick of the patch, AP Kaiser. The number 1 player in Europe is top 1 on Kaiser, and he's playing Kaiser, because this champion is broken. Shit champion. Like, not gonna lie, this champion is shit, because she's way too strong. Mana immune into full AP, too much damage, too much sustain, has shielding, has the ultimate, has stealth, has isolation damage that rivals Kha'Zix. Kaiser's first ability evolved in the 1v1, or does the same damage as Kha'Zix's first ability isolation, because she's shooting like a billion plasma shots into your face, only onto you. Normally it spreads, right? But in the 1v1, everything shooting onto you, boom, you just nuked. Disgusting, must ban, disgusting. Ezreal, disgusting, high mobility, late game poking god, disgusting. Lucian, early game, high mobility, burst damage, disgusting. Corki package, first strike, poke with the first ability and ultimate, disgusting. Did I mention these ADC champions are disgusting? I hate ADC champions because they're all disgusting. Now Jhin. I got yesterday I played Kha'Zix, and Jhin was demolishing the early game against the trash lame bot lane, because bot lane players are bad, and Jhin just demolished him. He has the 4th shot and he one-shotted me. Auto attack Q, I got one-shotted by Jhin. So Jhin first strike scaling into the late game very quickly. Has really good burst damage, super strong in the early mid game, even late game he is good, great in teamfight as well. Tristana late game god, just wiping and running everyone down. Draven, one of the strongest early game snowboarding champions. Caitlyn, super consistent poking champion. Honestly, Caitlyn is super good into bot lane players because everyone is trash. I'm not kidding. Every pro bot lane player says the same. If I ask you, if I ask Doom, if I ask Kranix, if I ask Kirks, everyone will say bot lane players are shit, bot lane players are just shit. What am I supposed to say? The player base is shit. If I can name you, let's say, name the best ADC players on the European server, I could name you Kranix, and then probably random, even though he doesn't even play ADC. He's Baron lane main, or and then otherwise, like, who else comes into your mind? Maybe Pooh, there where you're like, wow, this is a cracked ADC, he's so good. And then you have like 99% dog shit bot lane players that are going 0-10. Like, I had some games, they don't get ganked, 0-5 ADC, 0-5 support in 5 minutes, and then Draven is sitting at 20 kills, and my bot lane is 0-20. 0-20 bot lane. It's very, very common. It's so common. If you, I don't know. And then I play bot lane myself. I play bot lane myself and then shitting on those shit players because they're, I don't know what to say. I feel like we need a bot lane guide. We need an advanced bot lane guide again because wow. How do you help these apes? How do you help them to get better? Because they don't know, you know the problem? They don't know how to lane. They don't know how to trade. They don't know how to freeze. They don't know how to ward. Even if they're warding, they don't know how to look at the map. They don't know how to pay attention to the enemy jungler. If you're playing against Blue Cane is gonna spam gank you. Maybe play safe. If you play against Lee Sin Pantheon, maybe play safe before they're ganking you level 2 or level 3. It's very obvious. Put a ward. It's too hard, right? Yeah. I don't know what to say. Botland players are just bad. It's just a fact. And every ADC or support main that is good is gonna say the same. It's just unfortunate. Let's move on. Misfortune got buffed, making an early game super good poking wise. I mean, Misfortune was always a very lane dominant champion thanks to her first ability. Then her second ability gives her way more movement speed right now, and her ultimate is super insane in team fights. I have seen some AP Misfortunes, by the way. One good ultimate, you're just one-shotting everyone because it scales so hard. But I mean, obviously on AD the same. But yeah, where I was actually Caitlyn. Caitlyn is just outranging people, that she's just demolishing the opponents and getting the turret at 4 minutes or 5 minutes a lot of times. I'm not sure why. I guess Caitlyn's just so lane dominant because of her range factor. She's very consistent as well. S tier. Saya also super consistent ADC, good peel, good crowd control, good self peel with the ultimate. S tier. Vayne, obviously, when she has an enchanter to buff her up, she can be very broken, but she's weak in the early game. They nerfed her early game, that's why she's not as dominant before. Plus, she's very support reliant. Vayne without an enchanter is not that good, but Tristana without an enchanter is still playable in the late game. It's still way better because she has so much range. Then we have Varus. Varus, an excellent long-range poking champion with a lot of crowd control. Karma APC. I mean, APCs are also very viable in ranked. But the thing is, you need like a melee or like attack damage based mid laner, and then you can run it. I think it's way better than competitive, obviously, but it's still viable. Like Lux, Karma, Orianna, great poking mages or great poking utility mages. And then we have Brand and Morgana as well, but slightly weaker. Especially in the early game, they're weaker and they don't have as much range and as much utility. Ashe as ADC, I just feel like she isn't as good or doesn't provide as much damage as the others. Neela, kinda situational. Samira also kinda situational. I think maybe I should put Samira S tier. Samira S tier and Neela A. Or maybe just Samira A tier as well. Nah, not sure. Samira A or S tier. I mean, depends on the player, I guess, or depends on the team comp. Because Samira needs kinda like an engaging team comp. Without an engaging team comp, you can play Samira and Neela. Because you need like a Nautilus or Rakan or like someone who goes in and you follow up. And if you don't have that, it's very hard to play Samira and Neela. And especially if the opponents have like melee champions or like... Yeah, I think they're very comp reliant. But obviously they can be very good in team fights with their reset. Samira has so much sustain, same for Neela. Twitch very weak in the early game. Jinx weak in the early game and very weak in the early game. But late game they're very good. Then Akshan is super cheesy and just get outranges in the late game. Twisted Fate is also cheesy and gets outranged. Comp reliant or like it's a duo queue pick. I've seen like maybe if you're running like Twisted Fate Leona, Twisted Fate Nautilus with a CC chain, just cheesing in the early game and then snowballing can be played. But then Senna ADC is piss weak. I think support cheese way better. Yeah, let's move on to supports. So for supports, pick of the patch is gonna be Yuumi. Yuumi is still one of the most broken enchanter, just buffing hyper carry up, and they're just running the game down in the late game. Yuumi plus hyper carry ADC, Yuumi plus hyper carry assassin or something, or like Yumi plus Yone, Yumi plus Gragas, Yumi plus Diana, Yumi plus Twitch. Just they're just wiping the game. What can I say? It's unplayable. It's just unplayable. She provides too much utility, and the hyper carry just becomes a 1 vs 9 late game. Karma got buffed, making her super strong as well now. I already explained it. Super good poking damage, high utility as well, like shielding, poking damage. Pyke got buffed as a support, doing more damage. Insane playmaker. Lux, you guys know it already. Poking damage is really good. Then shielding factor, so much shielding. So burst damage, poking damage, shielding utility, plus bind. Binding multiple people. Soraka providing way too much shielding, plus silence. Kind of team comp reliant that you want a frontline, obviously. Like, you need like a minimum 1 frontline, best case. Lulu, very similar to Yumi, just enchanting hyper carry 1 vs 9. We're running everyone down. No, for S tier, we have the chat players, the chat tank players. Alistair, yes. Leona, yes. Thresh players, yes. Gragas players, wow, where are my tanks? Then Rakan and now this and Galio. Why are they so good? They make team fighting, or they make the team comp just way easier. Having frontline to soak damage, someone to initiate, someone to peel, Alistair, AoE knockup, damage reduction on the ultimate. Leona surprisingly so good right now. The Leona is getting very popular after the buffs recently, and she's super good to counter enchanters. Great initiator, so that's why I moved her up. Leona's pick rate, I've seen so many good Leona players recently. So you're jumping in with the third ability, then first ability stun, ultimate AoE stun, or you're setting up with the ultimate AoE stun into the third ability into stun again, CC chain, and it's super tanky as well, good playmaker. Thresh with the hook, with a fling, with a lantern playmaker. Gragas third ability ultimate playmaker. Rakan, he can jump from nowhere, just knocking you up and then taunting you. Nautilus, high crowd control playmaker. And Galio, I already explained it, has the taunt, has the knockback, has the ultimate. Now we have Janna with the... Janna, just a very good enchanter, providing excellent peeling with the tornado, with the shielding, with the ultimate. Nami, excellent playmaker as well, playmaker and peeler. Giving healing plus attack speed, good poking damage on the second ability as well. Then the bubble for playmaking and peeling, and the ultimate the same. Ashe can be good into the right team comp with the ultimate utility wise to keep catching people. Sona provides a lot of healing and shielding in the late game. Very good when you have like 1 or 2 tanks. So late game wise she's really good. Early game she's weak though. On can be very good. I feel like maybe I should put on. I'm not sure about on tank. On support, I mean. I have not seen that many, but I know he's very popular and competitive. So he's definitely playable. I think he's just hard to play or not as strong in the early game. Not sure, guys. Not sure, guys. What do you think about on support? Braum is just a little bit weaker than the others because he's more single target, but can be very good against poking comps thanks to his shield. Senna, more team comp reliant, where you need some frontline, but she can be an excellent second carry with good core control and utility. Swain, I feel like a lot of Swain players are very weak. Not sure. Where they are not providing anything, because at the end of the day, you need to land your skill shots. And he needs to snowball. If he doesn't snowball, he's not as tanky and doesn't provide as much utility than the other supports. Set also very snowball reliant, can be very good playmaker though. He's popular like in competitive as well. Then we have Morgana, weak in the early game, can provide some good utility. Brand support, I think he's very comp reliant and he's like a second carry. So you want like some frontline, like let's say you have a tanky jungler and baron laner, then I think he's playable, especially against tanks, thanks to his burst damage and thanks to his burn damage from the Liandry on top of that. Seraphine, weak in the early game, can provide some good value with the ultimate later on. Blitzcrank, hit or miss, can be a good playmaker. Amumu, kinda coin flip, I guess, a kind of unreliant that he's weak in the early game, and he has the ultimate though. Tanky, I have not seen a tanky any though yet. I think it's playable, but I think she has potential. I'm gonna put a B for now. Shen weak in the early game, or he's kind of snowball reliant and he needs items, and I think he's just way better Baron lane in jungle, but he's definitely playable. Thanks to his taunt and the ultimate to provide some shielding, but obviously in the early game he can't really do anything unless you're cheesing level 2 or something. But yeah, that's good for the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Write down below in the comments your opinion. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And let's summarize. Yeah, well, yeah, Vladimir just got introduced, and he is one of the most disgusting champion releases ever, providing so much damage. He has so much damage, so much sustain, and he is a must ban. And if you guys want to know the best champions, then definitely stay tuned. Wow. I just did the introduction. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.